Hello and welcome to Azur Lane Meta. If after this video you want to help support the channel, please check out my affiliate store at kit.co/Azur Lane Meta. Alright guys, today we are doing another PvP meta-analysis video. I didn't forget about you guys who really care about these videos. Don't worry. For those of you who are new, because we have a lot of new faces here, I every month try to do a PvP meta-analysis video where I analyze what the top 100 players on each server are using to use as their defense fleets, and so we can kind of get a sense of what is being used in the meta, if anything is changing. So one thing that stands out here is more red. For those of you who don't know, red means Amagi, which is Nagato, and Amagi. And we have even more than usual. We broke the 60% mark, and we'll go over to the line graph here, and you can just see that spike. So where we left off last time was we had this Champagne and Jean Bart and Richelieu were kind of creeping up in the meta, and we had seen them jumping up. Now, the Amagi fleets had stayed kind of constant. Not many people were switching out of them, but a lot of the people in the British fleets were switching out, and so we saw kind of the British fleets decrease. We saw some of the other minor fleets decrease in their usage as more people used the French fleets, which is the pink line here. And now, at the time that this was, How is just coming out, so potentially we see maybe a little bit of extra boost to the HMS backline, but overall, I don't think that's going to make a huge difference. Warspite Hiru, which is the Waryu fleet, the brown line, and any combination of the backline like Monarch or Warspite have been decreasing, and in this last month we have seen an increase in the Amagi usage here, and that has come off directly from taking it out of the French fleet for the most part. We also see kind of a dying whimper of the Akaga fleet, any really of the carrier pair fleets, and Queen Elizabeth too. So the original meta that PvP had, which was the Queen Elizabeth fleet, the Kaga fleet, and the WASD fleet, the triple fleet, those are pretty much all but dead on their last whimper, with some people using them for nostalgia. If we go back to the pie chart, you can see how much of slivers they really are. And I don't expect this to change very much. We had no new French fleets. Richelieu, people have had her leveled at this point. How, I don't think is going to make a huge splash. And we just got Shinano, which means that when people level her and get her max limit break, it's going to be more people trying to use a IJN fleet. And I personally believe that Amagi is the best way to go for your Shinano when you are using PvP. The other option would be Nagato Hiru Shinano, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of usage of Amagi. Maybe not over 60% like we saw in this last week, but a lot. So let's go look at the raw data here on raw usage. So one thing that continues to stand out is Amagi and Yukikaze are the most used ships. They are just the most versatile. And like even the French fleets, a lot of French fleets were running Richelieu, Jean Bart, and Amagi as their main backline. So that is just a tribute to her versatility. Yukikaze, once again, just one of the best all-around ships. She has so much evasion, so much heals, does a lot of damage. And so for the rest of the backline, we have Warspite, Hero, and Frederick. Those are your top choices for switching out for your third slot with Amagi. And then we have Richelieu and Monarch and some of the fun things like that. In the Vanguard, we see for one season, we see Noshiru jump over Juno. Juno finally not the runner-up, and that's kind of big. We've seen Noshiru been creeping up after Juno ever since the spring of this year, and Noshiru is a great ship, one of the best Vanguard ships. I've been saying it since she's come out. She is so good at being at PvP, and she's also really good at PvE. So you have her, you should level her. Obviously, she doesn't hold that status as the second one, but she's very close to once again taking over Juno. We'll see in the future how that rides. Juno is available to everyone and really easy to obtain, and Noshiru is event locked, and that event is vastly getting older. So until we get a rerun, it might be difficult for Noshiru to actually pass Juno, just because accessibility to people. I guess the only other things that are really interesting, I mean, obviously we have Jinsu, Azuma, Ibuki, Ainami, those are choice St. Louis. Naganami sees some play, so that's kind of new. And Rune is actually seeing more play than I expected, as we see like a good steady amount of German faction fleets, which, you know, they always have their faction people that will always play them no matter what. And so, you know, that's just going to be them. But Rune seems some play outside of the German faction. You can see that in the fact that she's used, you know, more than Bismarck. Okay, moving on, we're going to really quickly take a look at this pivot table for the main line, and we can see that the favorite ship for Namagi is Hiru, and just slaughtering it. Namagi Ryu is the best choice for the defense fleet for PvP in the month of August, so that's just there. And you guys can take a look at some of the other things, but that's the main takeaway. All right, moving on to the main frontline fleet, we see the most popular fleet being Noshiru Yukikaze Juno. That is one of my favorites. I use it quite often. And the second most popular being Juno, Yukikaze, and Azuma. That's the one I typically use just because I like showing off my Azuma, but either one works very well. And those are obviously the two that are just leagues above the rest in their usage. We see Noshiru Yukikaze Jinsu for more Torp memes. And also another fleet that's up and coming that I see some usage here you might want to watch out for is your Naganami Noshiru Jinsu fleet. It's very similar to kind of the similar strategy to Ibuki Noshiru Yukikaze, and those are both kind of floating around for your torpedo high burst damage. Okay guys, moving on to the heat map. As always, I will scroll through it and you guys can pause where you need it. How you read this would be, for example, 91% of fleets that Nagato are in has Amagi as well. And so that's kind of how you read across. Most of the things here you expect, for example, 100% of Kaga fleets use Akagi and things like that. So a lot of the synergies, but this is good to see which people are using their synergies. I think as we scroll here, one of the interesting parts would be the usage of Naganami, and 100% of fleets that had Naganami in it had Jinsu. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. Those two paired together are something that a lot of the players are using. All right, guys, that about wraps it up for the main 4 servers. Not much different. Still IJ and meta, and I don't see that changing anytime between now and the end of the year. But let's move over to the Amagi server because they're a little bit different. They have a different meta because they're newer. So as we see, Rishlu continues the dominance at the top. She has been the top most used ship in the main fleet on Amagi for the last 4 seasons, so 2 months or so. And it's kind of ironic that Amagi is not the top used ship on the Amagi server, while she is for every other server. So we see Rishlu still continues the dominance now. Everyone on this server got their Rishlu before Nagato, so that might play a part in it. But interestingly enough, obviously Juno and Yukikaze stay at the top, but we see St. Louis, we see Elserly, and we see Jeanne d'Arc all have roles in kind of the top meta there. I think St. Louis is really the only one that's going to stick. Portland is still around because I have no idea why Portland's still around. Honestly, I think it's just part of being an infancy server, only being a couple, 6 months old or something like that. Less than 6 months old, actually. So that's just kind of the update on the Amagi server. All we're missing from the Amagi server really is Noshiru, and yeah, pretty much everything else we have, other than the fact they are so much farther behind in priority rarity ships, so not going to be seeing any Fredericks or Azumas anytime soon. But for the most part, we're almost caught up, so in the next few months, we might start to integrate the Amagi server into the other 4 and average out the 5 as they start to kind of meld together. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little update, and we're going to continue to do this as you guys still enjoy it.